Yep,
You good?
yeah, I did.
Gotta add that now.
Good evening and welcome to the Monday, September 25th, 2023 meeting of the Litchfield Board of Selectmen. Coming out of a paper review, and we'd like to get the meeting started with everybody rising, saying the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Selectman Queenie will not be here tonight. She has family. We'll see her at the next meeting. Okay, up first, we have review and approval of consent items. We have an AP manifest of September 19th, 2023 in the amount of $69,986.13. And September 26th in the amount of $58,284.84. Payroll manifest for September 21st, 2023 in the amount of $52,585.23. And September 28th, 2023, and that's blank. So no one's getting paid.
She probably didn't finish it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll leave that out. So August 24th, Town Clerk Reconciliation, August 2024 Tax Collector Reconciliation, the appointment of candidates for Deputy Fire Warden, Craig Cartier and Ryan DeFranza. Is there any items anyone would like to have removed or discuss?
I thought there was one that was being added.
Yeah, I'll add that in a second.
Nope. Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
A motion, Mr. Weber,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Lynch. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Request for additional items and other business.
I'd like to add John Crows to the agenda to speak about indigenous landmarks.
A motion from Mr. Weber,
Second it?
second from Mr. Gannon. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay. Where would you like to have him?
Wherever. If he wants to go first, we can do that.
Do that.
Save him some time.
Since he's here.
Look up, he's
How you
here.
doing, sir? Come on up.
I haven't done this before, so you're gonna have to tell me what to do.
Just tell us who you are and
Where you live.
Go to town.
Yes.
Oh,
Is this, okay.
yeah.
Hi, thanks for letting me come. My name is John Crows. I live at Stage Crossing behind the library. And I'm here because one of the members of our grassroots group, who's not here tonight, Kim Keenan, suggested that it would be good, you would enjoy hearing what we have to say. A small group of us have been working on a project for a little over a year to do something about recognizing the people who have lived on this land for 9,000 years before the English colonists came. So we have a project in mind with no plan yet that we would like to present sometime in the future. Just to tell you a little bit about it, and I know you guys have a lot to do, so I'll keep it short. I'm from South Dakota, where the Native Americans are very much on my mind. I went to school with Native Americans, and towns and everything are Native American. I came to Litchfield, and I thought, gee, this must have been just a British colony. I don't see, well, there's a river, there's a golf course, and there's some street names that seem to be indicative of a Native American presence. And eventually the library introduced me to Steve Kalawa, and let's see who else. So anyhow, I started listening to the names of towns around the place, except for Nashua, it's all British. Nashua is Native American. The river was intriguing, but anyhow, it just made me think, if I'm perplexed about no Native American presence in the past, I'll bet other people traveling through the town young kids before they get to third or fourth grade. Other people moving to the state, as I did, probably don't understand much about it either, and probably it's a good idea to do something. So I brought it up to some people, including the Historic Society. And another group that I'm in, we're about 10 people altogether. No, maybe half of that number. And what we would like to do is to figure out a way to have people recognize not just the Solicitor General from 1734 or the first house where a meeting was held in 1736 or something like that, but the 9,000 years of indigenous, Native American, first American presence, occupation of the land. There are a whole bunch of ways that this is done across the country. I have a few examples that I can give you. Some ways of doing it are read at meetings, like the Pledge of Allegiance. Some ways are putting in markers. Some ways are having plaques or monuments, things like that. Steve's going to tell you about the P word as one idea that could be done here. He didn't know that, but that's why he's and we will have a meeting October 9th at the fire department at 7 o'clock, where we're hoping that other people will come. You, of course, are invited. Anybody who's watching TV and would like to come and be a part of it, it would be for planning, for brainstorming, coming up with ideas of how something might be done. But Steve's got an idea that might really be useful too.
Well, I was telling John that we all grew up knowing that Passaconaway, the great Pinnacle chief, summered here in Litchfield on the islands and the river. And he, in fact, was granted by the colony of Massachusetts 3 miles square. And this land started right about at Natticook Avenue here in Litchfield and went north to Cohas Brook in Manchester. And it involved land in Bedford, Merrimack, Londonderry, Litchfield, and Manchester. But this is the place where he actually lived, even though it was only a summer residence. And so I said to John, it would seem to me that a marker commemorating that would be a great way to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that was the correct P word, wasn't it?
And granite marker is one way that it's done. I've seen them on big logs. University of New Hampshire has it. The Art Museum in Manchester has one. They're all across the country. So it just seems like a way that we could join this movement that's been going on for some time. So just wanted to let you know we've been thinking about this. We have nothing to propose yet, except this may be coming to you in the next 5 years or so. Okay, that's all I have to say. I know you're very busy.
It's a great idea. I like the idea. Plus, our town seal has that guy waiting on the bank.
Yeah. When I was living in New York City, I just happened one day to be reading the New Yorker, and there was an article in there about 2 men who were recreating Thoreau's trip.
Yes.
And it was quite a long article, and it discussed coming through Litchfield.
By name?
Yes, by name. And they were aware of Passaconaway's presence here and the islands and so forth, and they said, but it doesn't seem to be anything that marks his presence other than a golf course. No other thing recognizes the fact that this was his home and so forth and so on. It was an interesting article that I'm sure we could pull up from the archives of the New Yorker.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a golfer.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Many holes in one.
Very good.
That's it. Any questions or suggestions or anything at all? We're more than welcome.
I think it's a great idea. Look forward to hearing what you bring forward.
That is the
So do
project.
we.
Yeah,
I think it's good for the whole town.
Yeah.
we can help you out
The
at all.
possibility, too, is even a state marker
Mm-hmm.
along that stretch where the islands are.
Yep.
to say that this is where they are and this is whose home it was.
Yeah, there are only about 120 state historical markers, and Litchfield doesn't have
We
any of
don't
them.
have one.
And it could be, well, that thing that's at Moore's Crossing, that's so educational, it's so well done. We could have something like that. We could have exhibits, dioramas, all different kinds of things. There could be, if you're interested, land returning land to some Native Americans. The problem is we can't find any Native Americans. The 2010 and 2020 censuses indicates that perhaps 25 people here claim some Native American heritage, but
We're one.
So, yeah, great, well, we'll turn the town over to you.
I got enough land already.
Open a casino.
we are looking for we're looking for some Native American. This shouldn't be a bunch of us white guys trying to come up with something. We wanted to have something, but Steve says he doesn't really know of anybody. So we got one.
No purebreds.
Well, not of the degree Native American that
Right.
you might think that you would encounter.
Right.
Yep,
We
watered
got
down.
24.
Watered down. Very good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll be back.
Gentlemen, thank you, have a good evening.
Pleasure. So, took care of that. All right, let's see, is there any other items anybody wants to add? Okay, public input will occur no earlier than 6:45. Up next, we have the approval of the minutes for September 11th and September 18th meetings.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for September 11th.
And the 18th?
Let's go, I got
Do them
some
separate?
corrections I
Why
want to add, so
Oh,
we'll go
okay,
one at a
you want to
time.
add some? Okay,
Yeah.
for the 11th alone? Okay, perfect. We have a motion from Mr. Gannon,
I'll second that one.
second by Mr. Lynch.
All right, the two corrections I have is, first, my motion was to add Jason Brennan as, to the agenda, and I said he was coming from the Conservation Committee. I misspoke, he's actually was just representing himself as a citizen of 23 Aldrich Street,
Okay,
and was not representing the Conservation. The second one is, under D, Fire Administration Budget Review. It was listed as Deputy Chief Paul Kelly, when in fact it should have been, Mr. Ed Glancy.
okay. And that's for the 18th?
That would be
The
for the
11th.
11th.
Oh, for the 11th? Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
I thought we voted on the 11th.
we're voting on that now.
Yeah, we voted, you have to vote, and then you can discuss, and then you have to approve.
So, we'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes with the due amendments? Now you can go.
September 18th, or, no, make a motion to approve?
We'll do
I'll
that
make a motion
first.
to approve September 11th with the amended changes.
Motion from Mr. Gannon, second from Mr. Lynch. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
Motion carries 301.
All right, I will make a motion to approve September 18th, 2023 meeting minutes.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Mr. Gannon, second by Mr. Weber.
I have one change I need to make.
Okay.
Paragraph number 24, when we're discussing the solid waste budget, it says Mr. Mueller. In fact, it should be Mr. Mellon, M-E-L-L-E-N.
Okay.
Spelling.
That's it. So I'll make a motion to approve September 18th's meeting minutes with the
Amended spelling.
amended spelling.
I will second.
All right, motion from Mr. Gannon, second from Mr. Weber. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 400. All right, up next, the contract with the Town of Hudson for ambulance services. Ms. Klein?
Good evening.
Hi.
So we spoke about this contract quite a bit during the budget. It has been added to the budget that was sent to the Budget Committee.
Okay,
Because it has been such a number of years since the contract was negotiated, there was a proposed large number
Yeah.
that was proposed by Hudson originally. Fire Chief Nickel, Karen White, and myself, as well as Ed Clancy, we all have spoken with Hudson, had many meetings. They were very respectful of the fact that Litchfield has a tax cap and that we must work within our means. So as originally proposed, the increase would have been over $27,000
Yep.
a year, which, although not unreasonable, was difficult for Litchfield. So, working through the contract, we worked on a new methodology for the formula. So the formula, as it was in the old contract, took into consideration the number of calls that were Litchfield's out of the total calls that Hudson responded to, and then took that percentage against the total Hudson budget for ambulance services and a percentage of their capital expense, which goes for new ambulances. What we tried to do was to somewhat simplify the formula and just look at the exact cost of the ambulance for coming to Litchfield. So they normally have 2 employees on the ambulance, and the ambulance is commonly held up for about 2 hours between both the call itself and the ambulance call, the hospital, and then going back to Hudson, cleaning the ambulance, restocking whatever was used. It's normally about a 2 hour on average. So the new contract takes the cost of those 2 employees' salaries and benefits and charges us $175 per call. It's much easier for both municipalities to focus on, and it reduced the increase to about $18,000 from $27,000. And even though we hate to see increases like this that obviously make our budget, we all agreed that Hudson was doing an excellent job. They were working with us, and we felt it was a fair contract to bring forward.
It's a lot less than it would cost us to have our own, so. I think you guys did good work. Okay. Do we need to approve that?
You do, and the contract, it's a 3-year contract. There is justification in the contract that should we need to continue, it can continue. And there's just a multiplication of $20 each year on top of that $175. So 2025 would be $195. 2026 would be $215, which, when you look at the cost of union increases, is probably a lot more than $20. And then after that, we can look again to see what is fair for both municipalities.
From a data point, what was it per call before? Did you go back and do the math?
I did. So because it was a different formula, it ranged anywhere from 116 all the way up to 165.
Okay.
It was a different, and it wasn't fixed. And as our calls have been increasing, so has that rate.
Cost. Do you have like an idea of how many calls we get? This is quarterly or per year?
Per year, I believe.
Well, it says quarterly ambulance responses to Litchfield, multiply 175 per call, so just.
So 100 and, so
Oh, I see what
for
you're saying, yeah.
2022, this is also a change to the contract that I should note. The contracts before were running July 1st to June 30th, which is Hudson's fiscal year. We're proposing that this runs coinciding with our fiscal year, which is the calendar year, January 1st to December. So this contract would actually start January 1st of this year. On average, per quarter, they run anywhere from 101 to 140 calls. Looking at July 1st, 2022 through June 30, 2023, there were 496.
Saw them in town today.
Somebody invited him.
Mm-hmm. Your neighbor. Right. Okay, so does anybody have any questions on this? Any further clarifications? All right. Then entertain a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
Motion from Mr. Lynch.
Motion to approve the contract for up to
Yeah.
3 years with the incremental changes.
Okay,
He keeps it simple.
Yes,
I do keep things simple.
I will second it.
Right, we have a motion from Mr. Lynch and a second from Mr. Gannon. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 400. Okay. Up next, we have the dispatch agreement for the town of Hudson.
So these contracts were negotiated together. Again, the same exists for this contract. There've been about 10 years between the last negotiation and the last increase. The dispatch stood at $12 per hour. That's what we are paying Hudson, and it never moved from there.
Per hour or call?
Per call, sorry.
Yep, okay.
One says one and one says the other. Per call.
That's what I saw.
So the difficulty with that is when you look at the rate that those dispatchers have been going up in the union contract for Hudson, we're nowhere near that at $12 an hour. It was probably good back in 2012, but not so much in 2022, 23. So, working with Hudson, negotiating back and forth, we agreed on $15 per call. Again, it would be a 3-year contract. It would go up $2 per year. The calls, the 2022 were budgeted at $8,400 and came pretty close to that. This year, under this contract, we're budgeting at 750 calls, which will come out to about $11,250. So while it is an increase, we felt it was fair, and they have done a great job responding. And our fire personnel are very used to the dispatch services from Hudson.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? No? All right.
I will make a motion to approve the dispatch agreement between Town of Hudson and Litchfield for a 3-year contract with the proposed incremental increases over the next 3 years.
All right. We have a motion from Mr. Gannon,
Second it.
second from Mr. Lynch. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 400.
We were at $12 for 13 years.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Wow.
That's why.
Okay. Up next, we have the appointment of Alan Sandler to library trustee.
So Mr. Sandler is currently an alternate. With the resignation of Eric Charbonneau, the library trustees have asked you to appoint Mr. Sandler as a full library trustee. He will assume Mrs. Charbonneau's expiration date, which is March of 2025.
Motion for that, please?
I'll make a motion to appoint Alan Sandler, who's a current library trustee alternate, to the library trustee, replacing Erica Charbonneau for a term expiring in March of 2025.
Motion from Mr. Weber,
I will second it.
second from Mr. Gannon. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 400. Okay. Up next, and I'm gonna assume this is the crowd in the room, we have the social media policy. And we're not going to vote on that tonight because we're missing a member, and I think all 5 board members should be here, but there are members of the public that are here, and to speak, and if they would like to come forth and speak, we would be more than happy to bring them up. Come on down.
Go ahead. Yep, all right.
There's 2 chairs.
Diane Blinsky, 144 Talent Road, Litchfield. Speaking as a citizen, and also speaking as a moderator for the What's Up page. Looking at this procedure, and I'm wondering if it would have been beneficial for the board, because What's Up is the page that is used most prominently to display this information, to maybe have had the What's Up members in and talk to them about it. Because whatever you put in place here has got to be monitored by that page. That has, what is it, close to 9,000 members right now on that page. And honestly, it's almost impossible to enforce. And it's going to be almost impossible for you to enforce it on the Facebook page, the What's Up page, because anybody can post anonymously. So if you're going to look to monitor your people, and they want to put something on the What's Up page, they can, and they cannot do that as themselves. They can do that anonymously. So it's a lot to monitor, and I don't think it's something that you're really asking us to do, nor should we be asked to do it. But that's something to think about. As a volunteer in town appointed to a board, I'm going to change hats and say that as a volunteer, we have a lot of volunteer boards in town that you're now asking them to not speak to things that they get their volunteers from. So I will frequently, as a conservation member, working on a garden that I tried to get going and needed all these volunteers for, I've frequently spoken on the What's Up page, on the What's Not Up, or What's Really Up page, the garden page and the conservation page, looking for those volunteers to come out and help me get that thing started. Any volunteer in town that's not even on a board, this is actually, it's almost like it has a little bit of overreach. Not a little bit of overreach, it seems like it has an overreach, because we have people that are on other boards as volunteers that now we're saying if someone just comes in to cut trees or whatever for conservation, are they now a volunteer and are they now subject to this? So those are my thoughts. I think it would behoove the committee or the board to have a meeting with What's Up to discuss how Facebook works. That's all I have to say.
What's Up is a private page, whereas the town website is a public page run by the town. And legal has been very clear to us that we need to have the separation.
But you're talking about people can screen share.
Oh, they can cross-post.
They can, okay, so you're not looking for us to monitor.
Somebody can take something off of the town website and put it on the website page.
Okay.
That's not being said that that can't happen.
Really relieved, because
Yeah.
that's not what this says. This says something
Hold on,
different. This
Yeah,
says something
no.
different.
No,
Okay.
go ahead.
So I had a call from a resident today. And let me backtrack a little. In the very first paragraph of my job description, I think it's the second sentence, it says that I will make sure that the town is following all state and federal law. So honestly, that's why I brought the policy forward. Because I've seen towns personally get in trouble over not having a policy that tells how it is acceptable to do town business. So the resident that, and I want to let people know, because there's been so much discussion about this and it's obviously hit a nerve, it's not that that doesn't bother me. It does. It bothers me deeply that the community would be upset in any way, shape, or form. So when the resident called me this morning, who also sits on a board, I explained to her that the policy is the town of Litchfield, meaning when you see those posts that say the town of Litchfield, the town's posting, or the Conservation Commission as the full commission, as the board, they will not post to a page that is a private page that has a closed membership. Because the town, as a municipality, as a unit under the state of New Hampshire, must include everyone, Litchfield resident or not, everyone. That's the law. So there is nothing to prevent a Litchfield resident, a volunteer, whomever, to go to the Litchfield Town Facebook page, take a post on there, and cross-post it as them over on the What's Up page.
That's okay.
Have it all day long.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're not trying to stop anyone's First Amendment's or rights or to stop communication. It's just the town must stay on its official page that clearly says at the top of it that it is the town, the municipal entity.
What about the garden page I run? What is that? It's a part of the Conservation Commission. But it's used to say, just to post pictures of what's happening at the garden. It's used to talk about what's growing and talk about getting people in to help. Can that page remain as it is?
Well, so that's an interesting topic, because one of the things that the board said was that we don't even know all the town groups that exist out there. And legal was pretty clear to say we need to know. There needs to be some type of document or even on our website, it needs to clearly say what units or what groups are connected to the town, the municipal entity. If the Conservation Commission that the garden page, the garden group is underneath, is clearly aware of the postings that are being done on the page, then I think you're gonna look to them to monitor.
Okay.
The problem becomes legal has asked us to turn off any comments
Yeah,
on a town
I
page.
don't know. I know that you wanted to have more activity on the town page and to have people where people go to find out that information. But if you don't let them comment on it, they're not gonna bother. They're gonna comment on the What's Up page. They're gonna take that piece of information, they're gonna put it on the What's Up page, and they're gonna comment.
And we
Yep,
can't
they can do
stop that.
Yeah, and they can do that.
But we can't be held
We
legally
audit
They,
as
responsible for it
moderators and
either.
admins.
they can do that, but the problem comes into, you're on a commission, you're on a commission, I'm on a commission, he's on a commission, she's on a commission. You can't do it on the What's Up page.
Right.
If you're
So that
doing
means
it
I
as your
can't
own
do
self,
live?
as Diane Plansky citizen, you can, but if you're representing the Conservation Commission, the community garden, that's a conflict, that's a
So
violation.
if I go to the community garden and attempt to go live which I frequently can be all over town doing live, I can only do that where? Where can I do that, or can I not do that anymore?
Technically, you cannot do that without prior approval from Board of Selectmen and Town Administrator. The way I perceive this policy being written. And the same kind of holds true for, conservation, and I know Janice is here with Spirit of Litchfield. The Recreation Commission has a subcommittee, Spirit of Litchfield. Spirit of Litchfield often has the big one is the Christmas in Litchfield. It's not uncommon for them to reach out to the town looking for volunteers, looking for assistance, looking for Christmas lights, looking for vendors.
Helder will go live too.
They go live too, but
Yeah.
the way the policy, or the fishing derby, but the way the policy is written and perceived is they cannot do that, that's the struggle I think people are dealing with. So, as Diane said, she believes it's overreaching, and I agree. I think it's overreaching. I think it's restrictive. I 100% agree that we should have a town policy. I back you 100% there, but I think we just have to, I was reading Bedford's page the other day, and their rules are a little bit different, where they give a little leniency to the recreation, to the conservation, to the Spirit of Litchfield, where they're allowed to post, but we still have to be careful of it. I think we should have it where official word of like election results or happenings that are directly related to town should only come from the town page, and I agree, it should be comments, should be closed. But it's when it gets cross-posted, who does it, and then who access to it. That's where it gets a little murky.
Hold on. As soon as they clear the chair.
I was gonna say that beside her.
Oh, okay.
I just, because Kim actually clarified the policy, and I think there was a misunderstanding. John Brunel, IT Director, resident of town, 6 Barrow Run, Red Drive. There was a misconstrued, I think, from the What's Up page. The town was not asking the What's Up the police their page. They can't, right? It was the town.
We do.
And you do. I really like that.
It's a lot.
As Kim described, what the policy does in a nutshell, for the most part, is it stops the town from posting our details or our stuff from our town website and our Facebook page onto the What's Up, the What's Not Up, and all that. We can no longer cross-post. Now, as a side note, our reaction or interactions with has gone down almost 90%. Since I was told to stop cross-posting, our YouTube views have gone down, our follow-throughs to the website have gone down, our announcements have gone down, and so on. Now, side note is we gained 100 new followers in the last 2 months.
But you lost access to 9,000.
I lost access to 9,000. I think that's where my rub has always been on the policy, that it restricts us and it doesn't get our message out. It was just stated that cross-posting may be allowed if we turn commenting off. We don't turn commenting off on the town website and or Facebook page. If it happens naturally. We've never turned commenting off when we cross-post, although that is an option. I think I raised it at one point. I haven't seen the policy get adjusted to say we can cross-post with it. You referred to the Bedford policy, which I've been reading for the last week too. They have 2 policies that kind of make up the overall policy. And they still leave a lot of the responsibility in the department heads and the commission leaders.
Yeah.
It states the board, the town manager, the board of the councilor don't need to approve anything if it follows these guidelines. And the guidelines are pretty well laid out. I think if we look at our policy that we developed and maybe kind of follow that kind of as a mirror, maybe, we may get rid of some of the conflict. But my concern still is we're shutting ourselves down from 9,000 people. If we can be a little more lenient and allow the policy to allow the town still to cross-post, but turn commenting off, at least the message gets there. When we started this whole process, our whole goal was to drive traffic to our stuff. So that's why we started doing it. And the idea was every post we made originated from the website or our Facebook page, so that when they clicked the link, they came back to our page, and hopefully they would like it and follow it. I get it, we make it easier, they're not gonna do that, it's an extra step, but it still gets them back to our page and we get our messaging out. So I just wanted to clarify, like, my biggest concern, like I said, in the last month, we've seen our traffic drop significantly. And I think that's not what the town wants. The town wants the messaging to get out. We can continue to ramp up and do this. The department heads can work with Kim and kind of rejigger the policy to make it more inclusive, a little bit more, leave the department heads with some responsibility to take those ownerships. and have that guideline, because they do, again, the policy is kind of broken down in here's what social media and the standards are, and then here's what, it clearly says, as a person, you have the right to talk, under some RSA 90, 98 or something like that. You have the right to talk, as long as you represent your department in the truth, there's no issue. No approval is required. Even to engage in a clarification of, our budget's down because we have 5 snowstorms, that's okay. It clearly states those things are okay to do. Our policy kind of says you can't do that without the Board of Selectmen saying what you can say and what you can't say. It's always been officially, the Board of Selectmen or the town administrator provided the press releases, the official stuff goes out from that. It always came from the authority of the board. And I don't see that changing. The policy didn't change it either. So again, that's just my input. I've belabored this over and over again, and I don't, I think.
I would
Everybody
love
knows
to
my opinion.
see the town work with What's Up. The What's Up board does an amazing job. I know that there's some misunderstandings of how it works, and there's been some information communicated to me about things that have happened on that page, that in actuality, if you go back and understand how the information cycles, it didn't actually happen the way that it was perceived to be happening. I would love to see, the What's Up page does do its best to protect the people that volunteer in this town and get elected in this town to fulfill what are usually very difficult positions for very little pay. It ends up firmly behind trying to eliminate conversations that are embarrassing to people that work hard. But I would just think that if the town could work with What's Up, where it's such a big presence, it would be more beneficial. We work awful hard to be the best page that we can, and we've done so much good for this town. I think that there isn't many places in this town that you can look. The What's Up page hasn't improved the town in one way or another. So that's kind of what I have to say. I just want to reach out and say I hope you guys reach out, maybe look at this policy a little bit more and see if we can't come up with something where, as a citizen and as a member of the Conservation Commission, I can still do what's effective to make people watch the What's Up page and inform them and not do anything to damage the town. So that's the goal, is to try and find a way to do both. So I'm done. Is that okay? Can I be excused?
That's
Okay,
Thank you, Diane.
Thanks, Diane.
Hi, I'm Judy Brennan, 23 Eldridge Street, and I just want to clarify, I am a member of the Recreation Commission, but I know you'll be receiving an email from the Recreation Commission as a group as to some of our concerns, some that were spoken to already regarding having multiple groups and sports teams under us with different Facebook pages and how that can all come into play as a commission. But I'm here tonight just as a resident and also as a town volunteer in other areas. And I wanted to speak to the policy as it's written under applicability. This policy is applicable to all town departments, town officials, whether elected or appointed, and all volunteers. And I think all volunteers maybe might need to be rewarded unless you are talking about all volunteers in town, which would probably be 90% of our adult population has volunteered in the town as in some shape or form, cleaning up a ball field, helping on trash pickup day. So as it's written here, and it specifically says, and all volunteers, I feel that it's almost micromanaging our volunteers if they are not going, if they have to follow the same policies as everybody else in the town. Because we have so many, and many of them will, if you look at something that's cross-posted by somebody to the mom's page or the What's Up page, and I think they're both huge community pages and both started out that way. to just bring the community closer to spread information. You will find that people who may have cross-posted aren't just people in board positions, but if you checked a name, they've probably done some volunteer work in town, and now it's kind of like, oh, there's a policy, and as a volunteer, because it says all volunteers, I can't do this, or I can't do that, and before you know it, you've got 9,000 people on a page, and maybe 15 who could kind of cross-post, which really hurts information being spread. So I don't know if the wording there where it says all volunteers, if that encompasses everybody who has done some type of volunteer work in this town to benefit the town, is now part of this policy, or if that all volunteers, if you have a different meaning for that, is that a fire department volunteer? Or I just think it's very vague, but the way it says all volunteers comes across as all volunteers who have volunteered in, you know, in our community, whether, and it states that the Board of Selectmen, it'll be administered through the Selectmen's office, the Board of Selectmen, and do any of you feel like you have time in your day to gather a list of everybody who has volunteered in the town, and how far back do you look, and to update it as somebody new volunteers that hasn't before, and then to cross-check if they're reposting something, sharing from a town page to a non-town page? Like, it almost seems unenforceable to me, the way I read it and I interpreted it, but it directly does fall on the Selectmen's office, and I don't know if any of you are up to that task. In addition to your jobs, this board twice a month, your other boards that you're representatives of, and anything else you do. But specific questions would go directly to Kim, if I'm understanding this correctly. But you as a board, the way it's listed, would be responsible for managing that, and where it says all volunteers, if you don't truly mean everybody who's done volunteer work in this town, I don't know how you would word it, but maybe you do mean every volunteer. So that caught my eye right away when I read it, and then I reread it, and I'm like, well, then it says, and all volunteers, so that's, you know, the way it's stated, so I don't know if that's something, that's the way you intend it to be, or if it doesn't represent, those words don't represent what you wanted them to represent. And as far as, you know, the cross-posting, or, well, you know, rec does have its own page, and conservation has its own page, and school board has their own page, and there are lots of pages, and I've heard it said at meetings that, well, if people want to know what's going on, they can go and follow those pages. And that's true. It's a little inconvenient, but I also have to say that as the Board of Selectmen, not everybody on the board follows the recreation page, but you're asking other people to do it to get your information. You may be able to get bits of information from our selectmen's rep, but that's just a small piece of what we have going on. And I think, so people can follow those pages, and yep, you can get all the information, but you can't control the Facebook algorithm. If any of you have Facebook and you have people or groups you follow, and you're like, hey, I haven't seen anything from this in a while, and you go search and you're like, how come it's not coming through? I've seen stuff that someone from Rec has posted, but it's coming through, it came through on the What's Up page, and I never saw it in my feed from the recreation page, and I obviously follow the recreation page. You can't change that with Facebook. You can't control whatever their system or algorithm is to get information. And so I do think that what's listed here is what I think our third-party page is. The first one to come about in town was the Litchfield Moms, Litchfield and Hampshire Moms. Help spread information to build or form a community, and people do follow that and do use that. It's one place to go where you can get a whole lot of information of what's going on in the town. The What's Up page stemmed from that because that was just based for women or women who were moms, and the thought came about, let's get something that can encompass the whole community. They are private pages, but they're both, I think, the biggest third-party pages in this town, and so helpful in spreading information and what's going on to people out there. They are private pages, so I don't agree that the Board of Selectmen should work with them, but I would like to see maybe a representative from each of the commissions or board in town, because social media is used differently and more frequently by some than others. Questions like Diane brought up, conservation has a couple different pages under them. Under rec, we have quite a few. Under us, how does that work versus heritage might just have one that's used a lot or not used a lot. So I think that this policy, I believe we should have something in place. I believe in being proactive rather than reactive and having something happen and then you're in a mess. I think it might be a little bit too much of micromanaging if we're saying all our volunteers have to follow this. I can't see any volunteer being happy about having to follow these guidelines because they've helped clean up a ball field or whatever it may be. I think it's kind of micromanaging and just expecting too much or asking too much of our volunteers. And what are you going to do if they do? Say, oh, you can't be a volunteer anymore? I mean, you could remove someone from a board. That's very easy to follow through with, but telling, what would be the repercussions. So I think it's just maybe in the wording, I'm hoping that it didn't mean all volunteers, meaning every volunteer, because then we would have no community group, whatever community, I'll call it a community-based pages. In the mom's page, the what's up page, there's a what's not up page, or I don't follow all of them, but I know that the two biggest, the mom's page, also, generates a lot of information for people out there that they might not know or might not see otherwise. I think they're important to community building, and maybe once, you have a policy in place, then maybe, those who are on the administrators or moderators on those pages should be able to ask questions or have an understanding of how it can work for them or what they can do to support the town. But I don't think mixing the private and the town is a good idea. I'm sorry to disagree with that. Like mixing the private and town page. So I think can I ask, when you said all volunteers, did you mean everybody who has volunteered in town, who volunteers from a date going forward, or in the last 5 years?
I don't believe that's the intent of this. No.
I was hoping it wasn't, but I don't know because, and I don't know how your wording would be to clarify that, but what it says is all volunteers.
Volunteers are going for everybody likes to volunteer in certain groups, for certain things. Everybody does that.
Right.
I don't think that's the purpose of this, is go after, like a ball field cleanup day,
Yeah. So
okay?
I believe legal meant, I'm gonna use this as an example. If there's a citizen's rep to the group that makes recommendations on the health agencies that we'll support, the town will support, right? So that's a volunteer. They're kind of not appointed. They're not officials that are voted, elected into office, right? So that's a volunteer. The problem would be if we were sitting and we were reviewing those proposals and a comment was made on Facebook by one of the people on that committee. That would be a problem. The process would be tainted, right? Because it's supposed to be discussed, and so that's where legal's trying to get to with the spirit of the policy. I get the garden page, and I understand the mom's page. I think maybe we need to clarify a little better what's a community group, and the town's official business. Maybe if we could clarify, because it says no third-party sites may be used for publication of town business.
Right.
That is, the Board of Selectmen has a meeting tonight. And yes, unfortunately, here's the YouTube video from that. That is the town officially putting that out. That should be on the town page.
Right.
And that's where it should stay. If the moderator of the Moms Group would like to go take that and copy it and share it over on the Moms Group, feel free.
Yep.
Have at it. That's kind of, so it's the official business, and I think when we look to maybe the garden page and some of these other pages, we can get legal to kind of say, those are different. Those are more community, they may have spawned from an official town group, right,
Board or a commission.
town board.
But that sounds more
Right.
what Bedford did.
Yeah.
Right, so maybe we can get legal to clarify that, where these community-oriented groups that may have come from
Yep.
an official board
I agree.
have different rules. Does that sound?
What I wanted to really adjust though was where it says "and all volunteers."
Yeah.
That's vague.
That was vague.
As
Oh.
it's written, all volunteers means all
Anybody who volunteers
volunteers.
in the town.
Good
And
point.
then where you as a board, it's under your administration to enforce that. And if you stop and think about that,
I know what you're saying.
you don't have the time to do that, and then somebody moves to town, they volunteer for the first time. So it's just maybe figuring out what the wording should be
I was
there.
thinking Kim and
So someone
board,
asked today too, why there isn't a public hearing on this. So,
We had it, didn't we?
now, we had a public hearing on the metal detection. I think,
That's it.
so, the reason the board is the entity in charge of this is this is a policy to hold employees and elected officials that serve underneath the Board of Selectmen. So, to some extent, this is internal, right? This doesn't govern the residents of Litchfield. Then it would be an ordinance, and then we would hold a public hearing. This is the board and they are in charge of all of us. And so that's why they automatically become the entity who is in charge of it. I don't know if that helps it on me.
Yeah, for me, it was just the wording, and what the wording says
Yeah.
and means, I was hoping was very different from what the intention was. The other question I have is sometimes, it's called the, communications policy. On the agenda, it's the social media policy, but it is the same thing. Okay. Because then I was like, I wonder if I got the
Legally.
right one from Peter, or if I'm looking at something.
originally it was social media policy, but that was too restrictive.
Okay.
Communications is definitely a broader term that covers it. Now, something you and I talked about personally is, we're talking about the boards and the need for them all to know 91A laws and the right to know laws and how to run a board, how to run a commission. And we talked about giving each a policy, and this could be something that falls into that policy where, as a member of the commission, when you come in board, you read it, you get to understand what 91A is, you get to understand what you can and can't do, and maybe part of your agreement is you sign, when you get sworn in, you sign it so you understand what you are doing, what you are representing, how to represent, and the implications that can come from it.
That's what it's, yeah.
So I'm just asking that if it doesn't really truly mean all volunteers, that maybe it might need to be
I-
That's a really
reworded
good
for
catch.
what your intent was.
Change it to
And
all
then
volun-
falling on you guys
Judy.
to have to
Town boards
try to
and Judy.
control that. But like anybody could construe it that way. You want to make sure somebody can't come back at you and saying, you're not doing your job because I see volunteers, from town that are breaking these rules, and that's on you or whoever would take on that.
I broke those rules all my life here.
Yeah.
Kevin, you're on TV, man.
So, I'm not, like I said, I'm not against the policies, or procedures, there are situations you definitely want to be proactive rather than reactive. But I would have hated to see something micromanaged so much as saying, Well, you volunteer in the town, so you can, this applies to you too, but it just, when I read it and reread it and reread it, that's the way it just kind of hit me with the wording.
That's not the intent.
So I was hoping it wasn't,
No, it's not the intent at all.
so,
Thank you, Judy.
thank you.
Janice, how are you?
Hi, good. Janice Paris, Spirit of Litchfield. I was just asked to, actually Judy covered most of what, because our whole committee is volunteers.
Yep.
So that was a huge concern for us. So Judy pretty much covered that. But a couple of the other questions that came up were things like, we're part of the rec committee. So does that make our Christmas in Litchfield page, which we got to change it to Spirit of Litchfield, but does it make that page fall under your rules?
That ties back into the garden page.
Yeah, because, I mean, that page is our way of communicating with the town when we need things from them. To have it restricted that they can no longer comment on it is gonna be huge. I mean, we'd have to figure out a whole new way to figure out how to get help. Because the whole thing is, you know, like Steve mentioned, the Christmas event. I mean, that's a lot of work. And nobody gets paid for it, and they're all volunteers. And the only way we have of communicating with people are through our page or the mom's page or the What's Up page. So we just want to make sure that we're not restricted because,
An idea.
An idea?
So remember how legal said that the town page in any official board page needs to have wording on it that it is related to the town, that this is town. What if if legal would agree that if they have wording stating who they are, they're run by a group of volunteers, then maybe that might distinguish it a little from the official, they're not appointed or elected officials, they're not speaking in an official capacity, they're a group of volunteers that are, you know, formed to promote events for
Community
sense of
events.
community, yeah.
Community
If they
events.
had that at the pinned to the top, maybe that would distinguish it a little,
It'll make a big difference.
I think it would.
and then
Would they
That's a
still,
real good point.
so they wouldn't be truly affiliated, directly affiliated? I don't know how, what was
Well,
that?
They are.
They have to be for insurance reasons.
So
Yeah,
if they
because
say
we're
this
covered under
specifically-
the rec
Rec
insurance.
commission is, you guys started, okay, well, who's on rec now? Okay,
That man.
okay. They started. it,
Same one for the
okay?
last few
They
years.
get it all going. And I remember when you had it over here and everybody volunteered all the time. Okay, and it wasn't, it was just, the rec commission was just to contact. The town knew about it because they're using town land, you know what I'm saying, right out front in the woods.
Now, if they do put that disclaimer, can they still make comments, post pictures, get feedback? I mean, a lot of it is really, it's gonna come down to the moderators of all the page, making sure that the nonsense gets
Knocked out.
right.
knocked out immediately. But will they still be, you know, if, we'll have to obviously moderate this, change this page a little bit so that they can ask for volunteers, because the big thing, like Spirit and Litchfield, they're looking for, last year, they were looking for Christmas lights. And if they can't have comments, it's
Right.
hard to get the, you know, the outpouring of support.
But I can tell you that when people do want to post to our page, I get notified and I have to approve the post.
Oh, that's true, you could do post approval.
Yeah, I have to approve the post.
Oh, that could be.
So a lot of people want to do like advertising and stuff on our
Yeah.
page, and I don't approve those.
Well, I'm glad you're doing that.
Do you know what that is?
So I think the
That's the good.
insurance question aside.
Yeah.
It's not that they can't be, part of the rec commission because the rec commission has taken them on. They're not appointed,
They're not appointed, yeah.
right? So the rec commission members are appointed
Yeah.
by the board. So that's a little different as far as official. they're a group of volunteers doing really great work that the town has decided to assist in, in support. That's different. They're still a group of volunteers that, and I think there should be some distinction there.
Maybe if we speak with legal and ask, no, that wouldn't work. On some of the main, like the recreation page, conservation page, Spirit of Litchfield, where they're truly affiliated and tied to the town, maybe one of the stipulations we put that they must have post-approval put on. So what that means is anytime you can post something, if somebody wants to comment, it has to be approved before it goes on. It doesn't automatically pop up. Some places where you will not be able to control that jurisdiction over would be the
I
what's
don't
up
know
page,
if you
what's
can
not
do
up page.
that. I know you can have them, like the post itself is like a major post.
I think you do
but the
comments,
comments
too.
on an existing post, I don't think you
I
have
think
any
you
control
can.
over.
I think you can.
You can?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of it when I was doing it.
Oh, okay. All right. I wasn't aware of that.
Certain people, because you what I'd call problem children, so you just want to make sure they're sticking to the topic and they're not causing problem, then you see it and any one of the moderators can say yes or no.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, that was my huge problem, was the thing about the volunteers, and we're volunteers. And I was worried about the fact that we are covered under the rec committee, that our page would be included as like a town page.
Now it's
we would-
prime time for you to get ramped up, so you need your,
Well, yeah, I'm
message.
setting up the meeting this week. So, all right, well, that was so if you could keep us posted, that would be awesome.
thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
I'll go and I'll be brief, and I'm not going to repeat anything that's already been said.
You're all done.
So I agree, Jason Brennan, 23 Aldrich Street. As a citizen, I agree that the social media policy is warranted. I think that this one, Mr. Chair, is just a little bit rigid and could use a little bit of tweaking. So based on what I'm reading within the policy, the library can't advertise their programs that they have on the mom's page or on the What's Up page. We heard about the Christmas in Litchfield. You won't be able to, the fire department won't be able to share out the fire truck parade or the ham and bean supper if there's a road closure or an emergency in town by police that's going on where you have a road closure. That won't be able to be shared out to the community the way that this is written. So I think that could, you could probably need to take a look at that. It's unclear in the policy to me if boards and commissions can post without authorization from either the Board of Selectmen or from the town administrator. It's not clearly written in there.
About procedure?
Yet there are many cases when Diane will be down at Moores Falls, take a picture of the river that day, send it out to the community. Hey, everybody, beautiful day down at Moores Falls. We're marketing. You're marketing your locations, you're marketing recreation, taking kids, pictures of kids playing sports and posting it up there. It's unclear in here if that needs approval. If you look at the Bedford, which I think you guys should take a look at the Bedford policy. If you take a look at the Bedford policy, there's a very clear statement in here that I think would enhance what you have right now. It says department heads and their designees, and I assume that means commissions as well, may provide public comment without town manager approval under the following circumstances, A, B, and C. And I'm just going to focus on B. Town manager approval is not required prior to the release of public education information, notices related to the commission function, programs, special events, public service announcements, and things like that. Not required. So I think something like that is pretty straightforward, pretty common sense. That allows the departments and the individual commissions to be able to freely push out information out there, informational information out there without having to go through a whole laundry list of red tape.
Does that say whether that's being released to a private page or just being released period?
Nothing, John Brunel, help me out here. Nothing in the Bedford policy that I read prohibits any post from being shared to any other site. That's what I read.
Can you get that to Bob so that
Yeah.
he can read it?
Yeah, I haven't read that.
So that was That's one of the things, Bob.
I'll grab it and mail it
It
out.
could be shared with me as well, John.
Yeah.
That would help.
Mail it out to the board, please.
John can do it.
Mr. Chair, also, so I think that's one of the main ones, but also I took a look at Londonderry, Hudson, Pelham, Hollis, Bedford, Goffstown. None of the comments are closed on those, on any of those sites. Every one I looked, none of the comments are closed. Usually people don't go crazy on town pages, but if you look at the Bedford policy, it says if it gets out of hand, we're nuking it. Which might be an issue. All right,
It's
so.
a huge issue. Legal said absolutely not. and
So,
I agree with
the-
that. Absolutely
To be
not.
crystal clear, the three things that I think need to be looked at are your item number 2 on the sharing, which I just mentioned.
Yep.
Item number 4 on the commenting. And item number 5 on the permission, meaning that, do we need permission by you to put a post that it's a nice day at Morris Falls? That's a little bit micromanagement, my opinion. I think some different wording could clear that up. That's all I have. Thank you. Now on to the metal detecting part.
That wasn't too bad.
He never sleeps.
That's why Judy has earplugs. What was that, Karen?
God bless you. God bless you.
Anybody else? Anybody on the board have anything?
Do you want to read the, from the chair of the rec?
Oh, we can do that, yep. Would you like to do that, Mr. Rec? Rep?
It's from Peter Ames, who is the chairman of the Recreation Commission. Good afternoon. I wanted to pass along some comments from the Recreation Commission regarding the communication policy under review this evening for your consideration. First, we appreciate the need for the policy and believe it can be helpful for residents to access reliable information. We have a number of groups that are sponsored by LRC that put on their own information online. Would those be subject to the policy? We understand the policy would only allow for information sharing, not for discussion, board, or comments. While limiting comments, could help keep official posts cleaner, we are concerned that this impacts our ability to engage residents or solicit help for any events. Thank you for your consideration and your work on this issue, Peter Ames.
Basically what we just talked about. Same things.
Do we have any more discussion? We're gonna check on those things and
No.
we'll pick it up at the next meeting? Okay.
As we try to pull things off your plate, more gets added.
I just want to make sure legal is okay.
Yep,
That's the big thing.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Up next, if I don't X out of my whole program, here we go. Metal detection ordinance.
Is it all done?
So this is an ordinance. So even if, I wouldn't have advised the board to vote because it's different enough that it should probably have another public hearing. We took feedback from, I believe, every, heritage, conservation.
Yep.
Recreation.
Historic.
Yes, pretty much across the board. And we tried to combine, everything into one cohesive document. So there was already created a metal detection permit, but we understood it wasn't with the ordinance and people didn't see it, so they didn't exactly know how the process went. There's a part of the ordinance that mentions lost property, and apparently that confused people because people hadn't seen the reporting form that was created for that, it's an online form. So we tried to combine everything together and address the properties that various boards and commissions felt there would be no metal detecting. We included that as an appendix that'll be clear to everyone exactly where those properties are, and that there are no digging zones or no metal detecting at all. The only area that I think was included in this, it was kind of reworded, is the rules area. And what we tried to do were make the rules as clear as possible. You know, you can obtain a permit as long as it's not a property in Appendix A, right? So, or if you're applying for a variance to Appendix A, you can still fill out the permit, but it's gonna go right to that board of commission. So, we will not entertain any variances to the properties that are in Appendix A without that board of commission weighing on. So we tried to make it as clear as possible. One of the concerns that was brought up way before this ordinance even went public was the lost property. If someone loses property, how can they report it to the town so that if someone is out metal detecting, they might have a chance of getting their property back? So that is the reason that we speak about the town's legal right of ownership. We are saying if you are on town property, there is a legal right to ownership by the town. We want you to bring it in and let us know, because otherwise, how we're gonna have the information from the person that lost the property? How otherwise is that person gonna get it back if people don't bring us the items? We're gonna look, we're gonna see the item, oh, it's under $50, it's not historic. Can we just check our record, our list of lost and found items? It's not on there? Okay. That's the reason that we speak to that legal, that the town exercises a legal right of ownership to things found on its property, only so that we can protect the property owner that may have lost it. So, it's a lot. We attempted to cover everything that we could.
Actually, the one thing you had in there was something that Jason was concerned about. We spoke about it over the weekend, which was placing a value on.
Yeah, there's one, Jason Brennan, 23 Aldrich. As a citizen, firstly, this has come a long way, and it looks way better than before. Before, it looked like it was pulled off the internet and just slapped our name on it, but this is way, way better. Back in the day, I used to metal detect, back in the day. And I can tell you this is like back in 1990. This is over 30 years ago.
When he was with Chief Passaconway.
Yeah. Over 30 years ago, my buddies and I, we used to go in some of the fields and get permission in some of the fields and stuff like that. And old timers used to come up to us and say, "Why, Sonny, why are you metal detecting in these fields? These have been hit since 1972. All this stuff is like wiped out. Anything that's got any historic value is pretty much wiped out. There's one area in here that I would recommend or see if you would take consideration on this. If you look at the 4 bullet points, it says I'm going down to the second to last bullet point. Any objects found while metal detecting, bottle digging, or relic hunting over $50 in value shall be promptly reported to the town. Cool. The bullet above that says something like, if you find anything historic, cool. I think the spirit of the ordinance is to do 3 things. Number 1, keep people off property that they shouldn't be on. Number 2, if they find something historic, report it to the town. Number 3, if they find something of value, report it to the town. The last bullet down in here is the one that concerns me. It specifically says, unless otherwise exempted herein, any items discovered through metal detecting are and shall be the property of the town of Litchfield. The reality is, when you go out metal detecting, Sally is going to walk on Darapon Beach. She's going to drop a quarter. Billy, a year later, is going to come through with a metal detector and find that quarter. At that point, what it says in here is that quarter is not the property of Billy, and it's not the property of Sally, it's the property of the town of Litchfield.
It's
So I
under
must-
$50.
Nope. It says, unless exempted herein, any items discovered through this practice are and shall be property of the town of Litchfield.
But it's an under $50 value.
Nope.
The bullet point right above it says any
They don't,
objects
those are
found.
two separate items. Those are two separate items. This is an ordinance,
exempted.
so they stand
I see
alone.
that as it's exempted.
It's not exempted, because if you go on down into
They're not
exemptions.
interdependent, the way it's written.
Yeah, so this is what I would suggest. So if you look at that, so what happens? Billy comes in with the quarter, and you put in the general fund, Karen? You take that to the general fund.
Hey,
Yes,
Mike,
I do.
it might get us under the tax cap.
Yes,
You find,
take it.
We need all the revenue we
No,
can
we're going
get.
lost and
you
found.
find a Matchbox car, do you bring that from 1960, you bring that in there and find it, all you
Be worth
find
some
out,
money.
this is what you find, Mr. Chair, metal detecting. Ticks, poison ivy, sunburn, heat stroke, okay? In a
Found
period
them
of
all.
2 hours, you will find a Ziploc bag filled with trash, pop-top cans, metal, just shards of stuff. You're lucky if you find 35 cents in pocket change. And if you're really lucky, which why people metal detect, it's like fishing, you might find an old coin from the early 1900s, 1800s, or something like that. 99% of the stuff you find is junk and trash. What I would recommend for that last bullet, it says, unless otherwise exempted herein, any items discovered through this practice are and shall be property of the town of Litchfield. What I would recommend, or ask that you consider, change it to something like, unless otherwise exempted herein, any items discovered that are a historic resource, which are defined above, believed to be historic artifacts, or over $50 in value, shall be promptly reported and delivered to the town administrator, and may become property of the town of Litchfield pending Board of Selectmen decision. That lets a person that finds 35 cents in pocket change keep the pocket change.
Please.
So the issue that we'd have is we were originally trying very hard to have this lost and found reporting mechanism. Now, that would make it be that the person would bring in the item, I find it on the lost and found, I know who the owner is, I gotta wait for the next meeting of the Board of Selectmen to
No,
get
'cause
their
it's,
approval to give it back to Sally Mae?
We could give the approval to you.
I would,
Vote.
so,
Yeah.
when, you gotta,
Cause this bullet's
have
meant to protect
you ever
that.
metal detected before?
No.
You find
Didn't
junk.
say I have not.
You find junk. You
No,
find,
thank
you find junk, maybe you change it around that says something to the effect that historic resource, historic artifact, and maybe something that might be of personal,
Or listed in the lost and found items.
Mr. Chair, one thing just to consider here, I'm gonna give this to you guys. You have to look, the thing that concerns me about this policy is it's from the government to the people. You shall do this. What this says is you can go metal detecting on town land, but you can't keep anything. Sally's quarter that she found has to be turned in. You have to flip this. You have to look at this from the perspective of the citizen who wants to enjoy metal detecting as a hobby. I mentioned, like your grandson wants to go out metal detecting. What this says is he can go out metal detecting, but he's got to turn the whole bag of junk and 25 cents into you guys. You got to flip it to the other side. And by flipping it to the other side, by doing this proposed change here, you're allowing the people to go out, you're protecting the historic resources, the valuable resources, maybe something that's got personal, we can add some wording in regarding that. But the other stuff that people find, Matchbox cars, things like that, let the kids keep this stuff. The way it's written right now is the town owns it. And I would, statement that I don't like in here, unless Ms. Kleiner can debunk this one, unless otherwise, no, I mean that in fun. And any items, listen to this, any items discovered through metal detecting are and shall be property of the town of Litchfield. Aren't those items really Bobby or Sally who dropped the quarter? The guy that found the quarter? It doesn't say that in here, so I'm gonna give this to you. Please put it under consideration, because as the way it's written right now, you can go out metal detect in Litchfield, but anything you find has to be turned in, whether it be trash or not.
You also have to hope that the person doing the detecting is honest and will return if they find something of value.
I metal detected for 20 years. I found old coins, some cool old stuff, nothing of any value. Nothing of any value. Don't believe what you see on the internet.
But we don't know that what holds value to you or to me or to Bob doesn't hold value to someone else that may have lost it.
You can tell how old something is, you know, when you're looking at, if you're digging down 4 inches, when you're metal detecting, you're going 4 or 6 inches or so.
I think
Most
she's
of the
talking
time-
about like a watch, like somebody dropped their watch.
Or, you know,
I don't disagree with that.
yeah, it came from their great-great-great-grandmother, right? And they feel strong enough to go onto the Litchfield site and fill out this form and report it lost, hoping it may be someday discovered by someone. It might be worth $10.
All right, I would
But it's-
contend there that prior to social media, it was pretty much finders keepers type of deal. But with social media, and we've had many instances in town where people have lost things, and they've gone onto the social media sites and they said, I've lost things, and many times, people with metal detectors went and found them for those folks. So I think there's a lot of cases where if somebody loses something in a field, that they'll put that up on social media and someone will end up finding it. So I just think you gotta just be wary here that there's just like a little bit, the way it's written right now, I'm perseverating on it, that it's, you can detect, but you can't keep anything. Just gotta,
What if we just added to that bullet point that, you know, once it is confirmed that the item hasn't been lost, it shall be.
so maybe in there, and you put something related to jewelry or personal items get reported to the town. Most of the things there are, like I said, Matchbox cars, Kevin's metal detected before, I think, back in the day.
Well, you just go down the field, you find every nut and bolt that fell off the farm equipment over
Boom.
there.
And they come up as quarters.
Horseshoes.
Yeah.
Well, if you go ahead, if you have your pick your own, you have a better chance to find some money.
A lot of Coke cans, too. Farmers just throw the Coke cans out, grind them into the ground, and that's what comes up. I'll leave this with you, but, you know, I seriously consider that, because this is a hobby that people enjoy. And you don't want to say, hey, you can fish in Dare Pond, but you got to bring all the fish back to us if you catch anything. It's the same type of thing.
Daryl wasn't one of the sites, wasn't one of the sites, right? Thank you.
Yeah.
Should run that by the historical.
What's up?
Historical should look at this too, right?
Ms. Lynch brought up a good point that historical should look at that as well.
Yes, sir. It did go out, the proposed ordinance did go out
To all the
to
boards.
all boards and commissions. I did get an email back from, Mr. Calawa
Okay,
saying thank you very much that he had reviewed it and
Okay.
saw no issues.
good.
This is the boring part now. Budget,
Okay.
Metal detecting, social
especially
media.
the school stuff.
It's never boring. A piece of land for sale. Up next, we have the 2024 budget, proposed budget adjustments. Ms. Klein.
So, on September 18th, your last special budget meeting, there was a reduction made to police overtime.
Yep.
That reduction, when Ms. White went back, reduced the retirement system and the taxes. So we're asking that both of those line items be reduced. But taking light of recent events, we would like to increase the police sign-on bonus.
I didn't know we had a sign-on bonus.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, we-
apparently years ago,
Yeah.
there was a sign-on bonus created.
Didn't we just vote one in a couple of years ago to help retain more people?
I believe it was just voted in, yes.
I thought so.
Remember that. Okay.
I've asked the police.
1920, somewhere in there.
I've asked the police department to draw up a policy which should be signed by the board and put in the official.
So what's the sign-on bonus for each new police officer?
$5,000 after a year of probation. And they must, well, so there was some debate between whether the officer had to be certified or not. The existing administration feels strongly that the officer should be certified. That's the reason for giving them the $5,000. You're not waiting for that person to go through the academy. There's no official policy, so there's
It wasn't,
no-
but I think the intent was when we did it, it was for somebody who was already
right.
police
So
officer.
I think if we draw up an official policy, it will be clearer and the board can sign it and then it will be documented.
Is that raising, what's the current bonus? Is it currently 5,000 or is that what you're
Yes.
proposing?
Currently 5,000. And it has
We're just
been,
asking
it
to
has
put in the
been
budget.
advertised.
Yeah.
So it already has a line in the budget.
For that.
We're asking for an additional $5,000 because of the number of openings that we have.
You really want to bury me with budget committee, don't you?
No, sir.
This day and age, it's the only way to get people. I mean, look how much that, what was it, in
Vacancies are coming
Florida was doing
all over.
$30,000 or something?
Wyndham
It's
was
crazy.
doing 15,000,
Yeah.
didn't help their recruitment at all.
Yeah.
So,
That's a good one.
there's,
Okay.
there's some give and take on whether it actually accomplishes what it's supposed to set forth, but, then the next item is, it's probably making people wonder with the description, but, the installation of the new pump at Dara uses more electricity because of the higher.
Variable volume?
Right.
It's over 600 feet down.
So,
The other pump was grade.
we weren't aware until we got last month's electric bill
Yep.
and contacted, Mr. Lane and Peter Ames. And it has been suggested that we increase, our projections to 1.5 times for the April to September time months.
We're fortunate this year, we
timeframe.
didn't need to use it very often with all the rain.
Right, which is probably why we didn't see it
See it, yeah.
until last month. So that's what we did, and it would add an additional, it's a little under 1,000, but we're gonna go up to, we'd like to go up to 1,000, in cost.
Okay.
But luckily, we saw it in the electric bill and asked the questions and,
It's something I didn't even consider, the added cost of the new pump.
so,
Big as a-
in all, with all, 4 items, it's a reduction of 9,651, so it's going in the right direction. That will take us about $10,000 in
Under.
total under the cap. That's a good thing.
Until health insurance comes in.
Right.
Can I approach and recommend another reduction on my budget?
Absolutely.
We love reductions.
You want us to carry you up there?
First, I apologize. Kim and I have not seen each other in almost 2 weeks. I've been away, and I otherwise would have brought this forward to her first. But sitting here, I was going through my budget, and I'd like to propose that I reduce line 630 by an additional $2,000, so that gets you a little further where you want to be. That basically restores my maintenance line for the communication system to $8,000, which is what it is this year. So I've been able to continue to defer incurred costs by doing a lot of the work myself. I don't see that changing next year. I'm going to continue doing that. It may open me up to reduce it later down the road too, next time, but I don't know at this point. I think it's still 8,000. Sounds like it's a good number. So instead of me leaving it in there and inflating it, I'd rather just take it out now. And Bob, hopefully the budget committee looks favorable on me and doesn't touch anything else.
Sacrificial.
I only can hope. It's a sacrifice lamb, right? So reduce 630 by $2,000. That returns that line from 10 to 8, which is what it was this current budget year. And like I said, if everything goes well for me and all the work that I've been doing around the system continues to pay back fruit, we're good. We're good, no problem. Additionally, I do have my revolving fund that I can fall back on if I have any major impacts. So I think the $8,000 number, unless the vendor raises their base price on the maintenance contract, I don't see any reason to do that, and we're set for next year anyway at this point.
That's pretty nice of you, man.
Okay?
Thank you
Pretty
again.
good, thank you.
John, so please don't touch anything else.
Thanks, John.
I won't vote for any.
So I guess if we,
So that's 11,000 in reductions, but
11,000.
Dara's going up 2,000. Right?
Dara's going up 1,000.
1,000?
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's still, with John's change, it's still on 11,651.
And we will, we'd like the board to vote on this so that when we start the budget conversation Thursday night with the budget committee, we can let them know that the board adjusted this as well.
So you're looking for a motion?
Yes, please.
I make a motion and we approve this. What we're looking at, okay?
Approve the budget as amended?
Yeah,
Okay. Very good.
I'm not into this.
The details,
No.
We have a motion from Mr. Lynch.
I will second
We have a
it.
second
Not
from
touching
Mr.
it.
Gannon. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 400. And how far under the cap does that put us?
11.
11,000?
No, so add
more than
the
that.
16, about 13,000.
Wow.
13K?
Until health insurance comes in. I'll just keep saying
That's
it
40,000 up now.
Yeah. Let's hope not.
But,
till we get to that 6 to 8% increase.
and then they'll want to approve health agencies.
Mm-hmm.
All right, up next, Town Administrator Report. Ms. Kleiner.
Happy to report that the annual MS4 report is ready to be filed.
Nice.
So
Good work.
will be filed on time. We wanted to remind everyone that we are working, the highway department's working with CEI, and we'll have a level of service workshop on October 24th in the community room at the fire department. To talk about the stormwater asset management tool. And the highway department has been working on overtime, not literally.
Yeah.
Gathering all the information, and catch basins are being cleaned and they're going back out and they're getting an accurate weight and amount of volume on the debris that's being removed. So this is a lot of work that is going into the system, and
Right
we have to
now.
thank them for that.
Belmore's out there doing it right now.
Yes, yeah,
There's a lot doing.
there's a lot going on. So that should be an interesting workshop, and CEI's been wonderful to work with. That's the departments that will be going to the first budget committee meeting. The reason I just wanted to make you aware of that is it may look totally off the normal schedule. It is, I met with, the budget committee chairs, and they wanted to change the schedule up and maybe hit some of the, more complicated departments right up front, so people have a little bit more time to consider those. So this was our agreement, and the department heads have been notified, and we've put together a PowerPoint presentation for the board.
That's an aggressive schedule.
I don't
It's
see,
a very,
Yeah,
bring your coffee.
see recreation up there.
Recreation asked to, Peter's traveling, so he was moved to the next.
Oh, okay, so this is just a
Yeah,
partial
this
list.
is all one meeting.
Oh.
This is all Thursday night, so Friday, nobody looked
Police and
for
fire or
Bob
whatever.
anywhere. We might still be sitting here.
gonna be a long day.
Yeah.
Big ones.
You working the next day?
Okay.
Hillcrest Water Expansion Project, I know that, everyone's been asking a little bit about this. I did, speak with Penachuk. The water main installation will not be completed until the summer of 2024. They are in procuring materials. That's gonna take about 3 to 4 weeks. They are going to communicate with the homeowners. They've said that they will supply us a, draft of what's being sent to the homeowners, so you may see it. And as they've done in past projects, the contractor will install the water services into the homes during the winter months, even if there's no main in the street to connect to.
There's no cost to the homeowners for that. That's part of
There's
St.
not.
Cobain, right?
That's
Okay,
correct.
Good.
The MS1, which hopefully you found in the packet, needed to be, corrected.
Yep.
What happened is there are some general cycled inspections that are part of the assessing contract, and those hadn't been completed. And we went to run the MS1 where we quickly found out that the information needed to be put into the assessing system. We looked at the amount, spoke with our assessing firm, and decided that we should file an updated copy. So it only did pick up about $639,000. So we're still a little under what we had for value in 2022, but it's,
better.
yes, much better, much better. And that's all I have.
All right, up next, we have Selectmen. Oh, I'm sorry.
Other than
Yep.
economic development will be canceled for Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
Several members are traveling, right?
Yes, and the
Be
chair,
available. Yep.
so.
Yep.
I will send out a message when I get back to my office.
Okay? Okay. Now we have Selectmen reports. Recreation Commission, Mr. Weber.
Next meeting's tomorrow evening,
Perfect.
and we'll be talking about a revolving fund for maintenance for recreation.
All right,
Bring forth our recommendation to the Board of Selectmen and see what we want to do with it.
perfect. It's a good idea.
I think so.
Up next, school facilities, conservation, and emergency management.
School facilities, I cannot meet that when they meet at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working, they've asked me to work where I am, so I can't get there,
Okay.
okay? But I will try, this week they're gonna meet, and that's not gonna work. Got the funeral to go to,
Oh, yeah.
okay, so.
Mhm.
This would be a dead week, excuse the expression.
Conservation? How about conservation? Anything with that?
I went to the last meeting, everything was fine. Did not really, just went over stuff.
And a few words.
I like that, you know that.
Heritage Commission, Mr. Gannon.
Was still on hold until October 10th.
And Budget Committee, we meet Thursday night. the fun begins.
It's gonna be a long night.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long 3 months, 4 months. And then as far as planning board and capital improvement and everything that Ms. Queenan does, she's not here tonight, so we will not have a report for that. So, is there anything that anybody else has that they would like to speak on tonight before we go into non-public? No? All right, seeing that. We have one more item in non-public under RSA 91-A semicolon 3, 2, D in parentheses. Consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property which, if discussed in public, would likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general community. We have a motion to go into non-public.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Weber.
I'll second it.
Second from Mr. Gannon. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 400. We are now going into non-public at 8:17. Everyone have a wonderful night. Be well. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Jim, you have your keys. You're all set.